Never got to do that before, so I'm feeling very excited this morning by that. Good morning, all. My name is David Hirsch. I'm the past president of the congregation. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist congregation. I should also say my pronouns are he, him, and his. I'm sorry. We are a religious community who commit ourselves to diversity. We hope to nourish human differences, those of gender, race, ability, sexual orientation, political views, culture, class, and religious belief. Welcome to all who treasure freedom of conscience in the search for truth. We promise to do our best to provide you a spiritual home. We extend a special welcome to our visitors today. We hope you follow our Facebook page. To participate in Zoom and receive announcements about special events and our religious exploration classes, please sign up for our weekly email. There should be a link in the comments section on our Facebook page where you can sign up. I'd like to draw your attention to recent announcements. For those in person, they are printed in your order of service. There are links to the UUC newsletter and weekly UU connections for those watching online today. The flowers for April are in honor of Alida Reese, and thanks for her genealogy research. And I see no other announcements. Thank you to all for joining us in person or online.
It's my turn. I was given our worship associate, Linda Mays, the wrong cue. Good morning, everybody. This is what it is to be human, right? This is a springtime Sunday. Our sun is shining. We have some lovely Easter flowers. And also, it's time for our spring basket sale. And we've all been wanting the days of our thrift sales to come back, and we're kind of easing into that by having a spring basket sale, which means today, if you brought anything to contribute to that, you can drop it downstairs. There's a room right off the social hall. And if not, we're going to be open all week during office hours to donations. And then next Sunday, right after service, we're going to have this basket sale, and it's just in time for Mother's Day. We'll have $5 baskets, $15, $10, and $20 baskets. That wasn't in order, 5, 10, 15, 20. Just to make it easy, and hopefully just something fun you can bring. There's going to be book baskets, fabric baskets, themed baskets, maybe a baby basket or two. We'll see what comes in. But all of those funds go to help support the congregation and also help you clean out your closets. So win-win. Hope you'll join us for donations and also the sale next Sunday. Thank you.
Here we go. Good morning, everybody. My name is Linda Mays, and I'm your worship associate today, and I use pronouns she and hers. For Christian UUs among us, may this day be another affirmation of divine love and promise. For all those who see the eternal story of new spring and life beginning anew, may you breathe deeply of a season of promise and hope. Today, UUC member Mora Nedland will share her personal story of awakening and hope as a transgender woman. And Reverend Lepp will also reflect on awakening in this time that we're living in. And just a reminder, if needed, that children religious classes are meeting downstairs. Our opening words this morning are Awakening to Connection by David White. Inside everyone is a great shout of joy waiting to be born. Even with the summer so far off, I feel it growing in me now. Let me do that again. Even with summer far off, I feel it growing in me now and ready to arrive in the world. All those years listening to those who had nothing to say, all those years forgetting how everything has its own voice to make itself heard, and all those years forgetting how easily you can belong to everything simply by listening.
Good morning. I lost you for a moment. We're the Wisconsin Rogers. I'm Linda Marie.
RJ. I'm Chris.
And we use all the different pronouns. Lighting the chalice, would like to invite those that are online at this time to prepare your candle and light your chalice with us. And for those that were with you, welcome. And I'm going to step up so we can say it in unison. For holy days on which we recall old stories, we light this flame. For Easter, which reminds us that love is our greatest challenge, we light the flame. For gathering today in this sacred space, we light the flame. For the opportunity to be together as a community, to remember the past, to plan for the future, and to be alive in the present. Light the flame.
A reading this morning titled, Let the Alleluias Rise Up by Ellen Cooper. Every year, the same conundrum. How do we find our way into Easter when, for us, the most important part about Jesus of Nazareth is his teachings rather than his death? Like many traditional holidays, it must have some meaning to us beyond its commercial trappings. But what is that meaning exactly? What are we to make of the death of one Jewish teacher 2 millennia ago in a world where we hear daily of violence, death, and injustice? When I left my Christian upbringing, the first thing I wholeheartedly threw out the window was the cross. I kept the bunny, the eggs, the chocolate, but the whole death and resurrection thing was right out. Many years later, I reluctantly let little bits of it back in, particularly around resurrection and rebirth. It was an easy metaphor to embrace for a holiday that in many places ushers in springtime. But it is only in very recent years that the whole story has again found a place in my spirituality. That Easter takes on a deeper meaning than it ever did when I was a child. No alleluias until Easter, my daughter told me solemnly. Shh, the alleluias are sleeping. She pointed to the small raised garden bed being warmed by the spring sun, where I could see the sprouts of trumpet lilies pushing up through the soft dirt. Before Easter, she summed up, no alleluias. After Easter, alleluias again. Of course. Perhaps the simplest, most elegant explanation of Easter I have ever heard, without all the complicated and problematic atonement theology, without missing bodies or visitations from the dead. This is Easter stripped down to its most central heart of hearts message. We have alleluias in our lives. Moments of triumph and wonder, of insight and rebirth. These are moments of transformation when our way of being in the world is fundamentally changed, strengthened, deepened, when we feel more whole, more connected. The exuberant and joyful Alleluia is a good way to think of these moments. And as my Christian colleagues are fond of saying, you can't get to Easter without Good Friday. The story of the resurrection cannot go forward without a death. Sometimes the most profound transformations are the ones that emerge out of the deaths that we face in our lives. It may be a literal death, the hole left in your life when a beloved one has gone and you feel unmade by the loss. Or it may be any one of 1,000 lesser losses, the loss of a job or of a friendship, the death of a marriage or partnership, a change in physical or mental ability, even the death of a long-held dream. These places of grief are barren places in our lives, God-forsaken places that teach us sorrow and suffering and lamentation. But feeling forsaken is not the same as being forsaken. The story of Easter tells us that death does not win. Love wins. Like the saplings that sprout among the ruins of a forest fire, or like the phoenix who is born from its own ashes, like the crocus that pokes through the snow each spring, or like the banana tree which dies but lives on in its children. Hope rises. Hope rises even in the face of death. And even in our wilderness, we are never completely lost.
Each Sunday, we give half of our plate, our share the plate, to a worthy organization, and our 50-50 Share the Plate in April is the Chippewa Valley Transit Alliance, and we heard a little bit about that from the wonderful Phil Swanhorst, and it makes a difference in people's lives to have access to transportation and to get around, and it's also very environmental. So we are glad to support the work of the Chippewa Valley Transit Alliance. You can donate by scanning to donate on your bulletin or text to give at 84321. And also our greeters will pass the plate during our Music for Giving. With gratitude for the abundance in our lives, we give to help people in need and to support the work of this congregation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Laura. And together, let's respond. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live. One more reading this morning. This is, I find, a very intriguing reading from Thomas Merton's Mystical Vision in Louisville. The story is reported by Lori Erickson, or written by Lori Erickson. For those who may not know, Thomas Merton was an American Catholic monk and prolific author who lived from 1915 to 1968. He was known as a proponent of nonviolent social activism, and in many ways in his later years as an East-West interfaith dialogue, particularly the dialogues between Buddhism and Christianity. On March 18, 1958, 10 years before Merton's unexpected death, he was running errands in downtown Louisville, Kentucky, when he had an experience that would change his life and influence countless others. In fact, the spot is marked with a historical marker, the only one that I know of in the United States that marks a mystical experience. Merton described his vision this way in his book, Conjectures of a Guilty Bystander. Merton says, "In Louisville, at the corner of 4th and Walnut, in the center of the shopping district full of people, I was suddenly overwhelmed with the realization that I loved all these people, that they were mine and I was theirs, that we could not be alien to one another even though we were total strangers. It was like waking from a dream of separateness, of spurious self-isolation in a special world, the world of renunciation and supposed holiness. This sense of liberation from an illusory difference was such a relief and such a joy to me that I almost laughed out loud. As if the sorrows and stupidities of the human condition could overwhelm me, now I realize what we all are. And if only everybody could realize this, but it cannot be explained. There is no way of telling people that they are all walking around shining like the sun." Merton's biographer, William H. Shannon, says that by the time of this experience, Merton had become a very different kind of monk than the man he was when he wrote his bestseller, The Seven-Story Mountain. One of the things going on in him was the maturing realization, born of this contemplation, that it is not possible to leave the world in any real sense. Shannon writes, "There is simply no place else to go." The experience challenged the concept of a separate, holy existence lived in a monastery. He experienced the glorious destiny that comes simply from being a human person and from being united with, not separated from, the rest of the human race. That experience in Louisville happened in the middle of an ordinary day when Merton was running errands for the monastery. And when you visit that spot today, it still seems like an ordinary sort of place until you know the story of what happened there. And consider this. When I visited that spot, I wasn't alone in remembering Merton. An older man and a young woman were there as well, and as I approached them, I overheard him telling her the story of what happened there, his voice barely audible above the sound of cars. It made me happy to see that I was not the only pilgrim that day at the busy intersection in Louisville. Merton's words still echo there, even after all these intervening years. And then it was as if I suddenly saw the secret beauty of the hearts of all the people, the depth of their hearts, where neither sin nor desire nor self-knowledge can reach the core of their reality, the person that each one is in God's eyes. If only they could all see themselves as they really are. If only we could see each other that way all the time.
Good morning. Happy Easter. My name is Mora Nedland, and I use the pronouns she and her. Thank you for having me. Easter is a time when we celebrate the resurrection of Jesus from the dead, which to me, going through my transition was a form of resurrection. The person that I had been previously had to die in a way for the real me that was inside to come forth and become known to everybody. At that time, and before that, I did not know how to express myself. I didn't even not really familiar with the term transgender. But then when I discovered this, and I discovered the verbiage and the terminology behind it, I knew that was me. I knew that my feelings that I had inside were valid and I could express them. So that is when I started to explore my feminine feelings with dress and presentation. And that further just sort of confirmed this is who I was. But unfortunately, during that time, there were many people that I thought were friends and supportive family did not turn out to be so. I had lost a lot of friends during that time, and a lot of family members decided they wanted to disown me because I was becoming who I truly was meant to be. But then also, I have to say, thankfully, I have met a lot of beautiful, beautiful strangers that have been supportive of me. And I don't know if you can see this beautiful necklace I am wearing. There's a very beautiful story behind this. I was during my transition, and it was before my gender confirmation surgery, I was preparing myself for a swim that night, and this woman I've never met before, and I pretty much know all the members at the community center. Anyway, I'd never seen her before, and we started talking about my transition, which, oddly enough, I don't really open up at that time. I didn't open up to strangers about my transition, but I just felt very comfortable with her support that I could do so. So we were talking for, I don't know, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and then she went over to her bag in her locker, and she gave me this beautiful, beautiful necklace that she made. And he said, "Oh, you deserve this. You've been a very lovely person, and you deserve to have this." And I was like, I never saw her after that, but I said, I always remember that exact moment. I can replay that over and over in my mind. And it's like, so the kindness of strangers that have been very supportive has been very beautiful also. So as I continued through my journey, I found out this was what I was meant to do, because I was really feeling happy inside, and I knew that other people's expectations of me did not really matter so much as if I knew I was taking the right path for myself. And that was like, I decided I really needed to have that gender confirmation surgery done. And then afterwards, I knew that was the correct decision. It just really confirmed I felt whole as a person. And I was like, thank goodness. I'm super happy that I did this. And I guess, I don't really know how this sounds, but just no matter how people feel per se, I knew it was right. And if people don't support me, so be it. That is their choice in life. But I knew the people that were meant to be in my life did support me. That's what mattered. I guess what I'm trying to say is that the people that were meant to be in my life were drawn toward me, which that was a very valuable lesson in life. Very valuable. And as I've continued after my surgery, I've continued to summon the strength and confidence I had received from becoming the person that I was truly meant to be. And I've continued to grow and had the confidence to make changes in my life to better myself. And that's why I went back to school for further education to become a physical therapist assistant. And I've learned to continue to just not look for other people's attention, but just to accept other people's attention that are meant to be in my life. And it's just, I feel like I'm the person that was truly meant to be in my life. Well, thank you very much, and namaste.
So our theme this month is awakening, and awakening to identity takes a lot of courage, and I just really appreciate Mora sharing her story. And I don't know about you all, but I was definitely an awkward teenager, definitely. And all of us try and figure out who we are. Sometimes it's awkward middle age too. I can claim that as well. Who am I? Feeling a little strange in the corner over here. I went back to yoga after a long time away, and I felt strange without my mask on too. I kept thinking, there's people breathing in here. But I want to relax, and I finally relaxed, and probably next time I'll probably wear my mask, but it's a strange time. We're really trying to find our way. If we weren't seeking before the pandemic, perhaps we began seeking, when we were cut off from our normal avenues of connection, meeting here, meeting at yoga or coffee or all those places that fed us. I know I really missed visiting my family in person, seeing friends, hugging you all, seeing little babies. The first time I met Hawthorne, I saw Megan at the farmer's market, and she had her baby with her. And this moment of pure joy just seized me, and it was like one of those little Laura Ingalls moments where we like in the middle of the road. I said, "Can I?" And she's like, "Yes, you can hold the baby." And I held the baby, and he put his head on my shoulder, and I felt like my whole body was opening up to the sun. And I think that's how it feels when we are fully alive, fully ourselves. And for me, just like many of you, that's being a relational being. It's being able to touch, hear, see, love in ways that acknowledge fully who we are. And I think that's what is drawing some of us towards Unitarian Universalism, is that, a transgender woman can stand here at our pulpit and talk about her personal awakening and her personal resurrection on Easter. That is just amazing. That would not have happened in my South Carolina church or in many congregations. And I think to create a space of welcome is powerful, and it's prophetic. If we're going to use biblical language, it calls us. Jesus calls us to love our neighbors as ourselves. Well, there you go. Opening the circle, standing with those who often stand alone and need support. And so I'm wearing my sunflower again this week in support of Ukraine and peace in Ukraine. And that also calls us to love our neighbors, thinking how we can reach out with peace and love and acceptance, changing the world. And so when I think about Thomas Merton, what Linda May has talked about, that we're all walking around shining like the sun, how powerful is that you can see someone at the mall and somehow in there, maybe they're in a hurry or grumpy, or they got their whiny children with them and they're running around, but somewhere in that human is a whole bunch of good stuff, whole bunch of light, whole bunch of love. And you can, I've been in a grocery line with someone who, I think she kept kind of apologizing for her kids, like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." I'm like, no, it's great to hear children's voices. I haven't heard children's voices in I'm like, "No, really, it's great." and then she kind of relaxed a little bit, like, "Oh, okay. This woman gets me, it's okay." And instead of being like, "Oh, I can't believe you're not controlling your children," which in a grocery line is impossible most of the time. And so those small moments of grace, those small moments of awakening to the moment that we're in, awakening to the people around us, that is love. That is Easter to me. One of the people that I met early on in my time at UUC was Bobby Kilmurray. And if you didn't meet Bobby Kilmurray, she was an incredibly wise soul. And she also, kindly enough, rented us our first house in Eau Claire. And she said, now watch. When spring comes, it's going to come really fast. And it's like resurrection. It's like Easter, because I believe that resurrection happens each year when the bulbs push through the soil. And, in the South, spring just means a bunch of pollen and sneezing, and yeah, it's pretty, but it's not my favorite season. Whereas here, my first winter, we had 22 inches of snow. And I was like, what is happening here? What did I do? No, I'm kidding. No, but it was intense. It was an intense winter. And then at her house, things started happening in the spring. We saw these green things shooting up, and it was like, pow, 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 pow. She had all of these tulips and this beautiful garden. It just went the whole year. And that was hope, the hope after spring. And Wisconsin has something vibrant about it. It's like, I know my plants are starting to get up, even though it snowed the other day. It's like, I don't care. It's above freezing. I'm going to come out. And then I see all these people walking around in shorts, even though it's 30 degrees. And I'm going, what? So life is short. And we can only do what we can. But to have courage to be who you are, to claim your light and your love, and to live it with intention, to have awakening and resurrection, that to me is what it's all about. And if we can do that in a way that is kind and loving and accepting, then I think we're doing pretty well. I wanted to share these words by Rumi. You are not meant for crawling, so don't. You have wings. Learn to use them and fly. And lastly, Who You Are Right Now by John Wayland. Forget about enlightenment. Sit down wherever you are, and listen to the wind singing in your veins. Can you imagine the wind singing in your veins? That's the coolest idea. Open your heart to who you are right now, not the saint that you are striving to become. You tell me to live each day as if it were my last, but why the last? I ask, why not live each day as if it were the first? All raw astonishment, Eve rubbing her eyes awake that first morning. So thank you for being here with us today for Awakening and Easter and the story of Mora and all of you. Amen.
Thank you all for joining us today, and for the online group also. We appreciate your support. And together, love is the, we extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Thank you.
For all those who celebrate the resurrection of Jesus, may this day be another day of affirmation of divine love and promise. For all those who celebrate spring and life beginning anew, may you breathe deeply. Find flowers, a season of promise and new hope. And to all those experiencing despair or hopelessness, may you find in the darkness a doorway of light, of warmth that offers you freedom. For all of us together, we can do what no isolated person can do. Rolling the heavy stone aside reminds us that we are more powerful than we could ever be on our own. Our offering of strong hands to help each other, our prayers made real. Let us begin again in love. Amen.